It was 2:03 a.m. when Marcus Collins turned off the interstate and onto Hallow Road, a quiet, unlit stretch of asphalt that cut through miles of dense woods. He was heading home from a late shift, tired eyes squinting at the road ahead. The only sound in the car was the hum of the tires and the occasional crackle from an old radio station barely holding a signal. As he rounded a bend, his headlights caught something, a figure standing dead center in the road. A boy. No older than 10. Marcus slammed the brakes, tires screeching as the car came to a jerky stop just feet from the child. Heart pounding, he reached over and flipped the hazard lights on. The boy didn't move. Pale, barefoot, wearing what looked like hospital pajamas. His eyes, hollow and wide, locked with Marcus's through the windshield. Marcus stepped out of the car. "Hey. Are you okay? What are you doing out here?" No response. The boy just tilted his head slowly to one side. That's when Marcus noticed something even stranger: no breath in the cold night air. Not even a shiver. Instinct told him to get back in the car. Too late. From the trees, shadows moved, fast. Heavy footfalls. A sharp crack against the side of his head sent his world spinning. He collapsed onto the cold pavement, vision going black as he saw the boy's lips curl into a small, unnatural smile. Marcus woke up in darkness. His hands were tied. A damp cloth gagged his mouth. Somewhere nearby, a door creaked open. Footsteps. A light clicked on, dim, yellow, flickering. Standing at the entrance was the boy. But now, his eyes were different. Too aware. Too old. "You got out of the car," the boy said calmly. His voice was not his own, too deep, too composed. A figure stepped in behind the boy, taller, adult, face hidden in shadow. "You're going to help us now," the figure said. "One way, or another." Marcus's scream was muffled. But no one could hear him out here. On Hallow Road, they never did that. It was 2:03 a.m. when Marcus Collins left the interstate for the backroads. He hated taking Hallow Road, but the main highway was closed off for repairs, and his GPS insisted this was the fastest route home. He regretted it almost instantly. The road was narrow and unlit, hemmed in on both sides by thick, overgrown woods. No street lamps. No signs. Just his headlights cutting through the dense darkness, revealing the occasional pair of gleaming animal eyes watching from the trees. Marcus rubbed his eyes. He was exhausted. 12 hours at the warehouse had taken their toll, and now, with only an hour left to home, all he wanted was coffee and a bed. As he rounded a tight bend, the high beams lit up something that made his blood go cold. A boy. Just standing in the middle of the road. Marcus slammed on the brakes. The car fishtailed slightly before coming to a stop, the seatbelt snapping across his chest. Heart pounding, he sat there frozen, staring. The boy stood no more than 4 feet tall. Thin. Barefoot. Where?
Wearing a tattered hospital gown that clung to his frame. His head was tilted slightly to the side, mouth hanging slightly open, eyes wide and glassy. Marcus fumbled with his seatbelt. Was this kid hurt? Lost? "Hey," he called, rolling the window down. "You okay?" No response. He got out. The cold hit him instantly, a heavy, damp chill that settled into his bones. The boy didn't move, didn't even blink. Marcus took a slow step forward. "Are you alone? Is there someone with you?" he asked. Still nothing. The boy's stare was unrelenting. A prickle ran down Marcus's spine. He was about to turn back to his car when he heard it, a crack in the woods behind him. A branch snapping under weight. Then another. Closer. He turned. Too late. Something slammed into the back of his head. He fell hard, stars exploding in his vision. Before he could crawl or scream, rough hands grabbed his arms and legs, dragging him off the road into the woods. He caught one last glimpse of the boy, still standing in the road, watching. But now he was smiling. Marcus woke to the smell of mildew and damp earth. His head throbbed. He was lying on a cold cement floor, wrists zip-tied behind his back, a filthy cloth tied around his mouth. The room was dimly lit by a flickering light bulb overhead. The walls were concrete. No windows. He wasn't alone. Across the room, a young girl, maybe 16, sat curled in the corner, hugging her knees. Her eyes were wide, terrified. Dried blood caked the side of her head. She stared at Marcus, then pointed to the ceiling and shook her head, a silent warning. Footsteps. A door creaked open above them, and someone descended slowly down the stairs. Heavy boots. A tall figure entered the room, face hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask, the kind used in old theater plays. Behind him, the boy, still barefoot, still smiling. The man in the mask knelt beside Marcus. "You were chosen," he said, his voice low and calm. "The boy picks. He sees what's inside people. And he saw you." Marcus tried to scream through the gag, but it came out muffled. "You'll understand soon enough," the masked man said. "The ritual begins at dawn." Then he stood and left. The boy remained for a moment longer, staring at Marcus, then whispered, "You shouldn't have stopped." As hours passed, Marcus learned bits and pieces from the girl. Her name was Erin. She'd been missing for 6 days. She was taken the same way, a child in the road, a sudden blow, then darkness. "They call him the vessel," she whispered. "The boy, he's not normal. He's not even really a boy anymore. What does he want?" Marcus asked once they removed his gag for food. Erin looked at him with haunted eyes. "He wants to bring something back." Just before sunrise, the captors returned, 3 masked adults, each holding strange symbols etched in bone or rusted metal. The boy led the way. They carried Marcus and Erin outside, deep into the woods, where a crude circle had been carved into the ground.
Around it were crude effigies made of sticks, feathers, and bones. A fire pit smoked in the center. Marcus was strapped to a stone slab. Erin was chained to a post. The boy stood over Marcus, chanting in a language he couldn't understand. But he felt something. The wind stopped. The woods went silent. The air thickened, hard to breathe. And then, something answered. A low, guttural rumble, like the earth itself speaking. The fire burst to life. Shadows bent in unnatural directions. Marcus screamed as a pressure built in his head, something crawling behind his eyes. Then, sirens. Flashing lights through the trees. Voices shouting. Gunfire. Chaos. The boy screamed, but it wasn't a child's voice anymore. It was deep, monstrous, unnatural. The world turned white. Marcus woke up in a hospital bed 2 days later. A sheriff sat beside him. "You're lucky," he said. "We got a tip. Don't ask from who, it was anonymous. Found you and the girl just in time. The place was booby-trapped." Whole thing nearly went up in flames. Marcus tried to speak. The boy. The sheriff shook his head. No sign of a boy. Just one dead man wearing a mask, and a whole lot of weird junk. Looks like a cult. But Marcus knew better. He remembered the boy's eyes. They weren't gone. Not yet. A month later, Marcus received a package at his apartment. No return address. Inside was a photograph. It was him, standing next to his car, just seconds before he got out that night. And behind him, barely visible in the shadows, was the boy. Smiling. Marcus hadn't slept through the night since Hallow Road. Therapists called it PTSD. Nightmares, paranoia, hallucinations, all classic signs. But Marcus knew better. It wasn't trauma. It was a warning. He moved to a new city, took a quiet IT job, avoided roads without lights, and never drove after midnight. But still, the signs followed him. Every month, like clockwork, he'd receive something anonymous. A crayon drawing of a boy standing beside a tree. A cassette tape playing distant whispers when rewound. A single crow feather inside a box sealed with wax. And always, at the bottom, you were chosen. He kept everything locked in a metal case under his bed. Out of sight. But never out of mind. Her name was Sarah Delaney, a freelance journalist who had written a piece on ritual disappearances in the Appalachian corridor. One night she knocked on Marcus's door, notebook in hand. "I read about what happened to you," she said. "You and the Hallow Road girl, Erin." Marcus froze at the mention. "She's gone. Witness protection. I haven't seen her since." Sarah nodded. "But you still see him, don't you?" That stopped Marcus cold. She opened her bag and pulled out a photograph. Black and white. Grainy. A boy. In the middle of a playground. Standing stock still while everyone else around him blurred in motion. A smear of shadow trailed behind him like smoke. Marcus nodded slowly. "That's him. I think he's a tether," Sarah said. "A vessel lick."
A vessel like you said before. Maybe for something older. Not human. Not alive.
Crisis.
But not dead either. Marcus laughed bitterly. He's worse than all of that. Sarah convinced him they needed to go back. Not to find closure, but answers. Places like Hallow Road aren't random, she explained on the drive. They're marked. Thin spots. Between this world and whatever that thing is. Marcus hated every second of being back. The trees hadn't changed. Neither had the way the air seemed too quiet, as if even the wind was afraid to blow. But they didn't go to the road. Not yet. They went to the house. The farmhouse in the woods, the place Marcus had been held, was supposedly destroyed in the raid. But as they moved through the forest, GPS glitching the deeper they went, they found something unsettling. The house was still there. Intact. Untouched. As if nothing had happened. Sarah raised her phone. This should be a smoldering crater. Marcus stood silent. His breath frosted in the air, though it was June. They entered. Inside, time seemed broken. Mold grew in reverse across the walls. A clock ticked backward. A photograph on the wall showed Sarah and Marcus standing beside the boy. "I've never taken this," Sarah whispered, eyes wide. And then they heard it. A humming sound. Soft. Childlike. Coming from the basement. Marcus moved before thinking. Down the stairs. Back into the dark room he thought he'd never return to. The slab was still there. So were the symbols. But this time, something else waited for them. A mirror. 7 feet tall. Framed in blackened wood and cracked bone. Marcus stepped toward it. And saw not himself. But the boy, staring back from inside the mirror. And behind him, dozens of others. Twisted, malformed shapes. Eyes like embers. Watching. Waiting. Sarah gasped. "It's a gate." The mirror flickered. And then the boy stepped through. Everything after that happened fast, or too slow. Time bent. The boy reached toward Marcus. Not with hands, but thought. A pressure in the air. A suggestion in his mind. He saw flashes. Ancient forests under red skies. Rituals performed by people with no faces. Children being led into shadow and not returning, and a single word burned into his thoughts. Return. The boy whispered into Marcus's mind. You opened the gate. Now keep it open. Marcus fell to his knees, blood running from his nose. Sarah screamed, the mirror pulsed. Suddenly, the front door slammed open. A man in a black cloak stormed in, chanting in a deep, guttural voice. The mirror cracked. The boy screeched, not human, not even animal, a frequency that turned blood to ice. And in a flash of light and sound, the mirror shattered. Marcus woke up in a hospital again. Sarah was gone. No record of her ever existing. Not in police reports, not in her articles. Even her voice recorder was blank. But the photograph from the house was still in Marcus's jacket. It showed 3 people now.
Marcus. The boy. And himself again, older, staring directly at the camera. On the back, written in a child's scrawl. You were always me. The first dream came the night after Marcus woke in the hospital. It was the same as the others. The same hollow road. The same boy standing at the center. Only this time, Marcus was the one watching from the car, unable to move, unable to speak. The boy's eyes locked with his through the windshield, but there was no smile this time. Only a dread. The boy whispered something, a name. Marcus awoke, gasping for breath. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Aaron. It was a text message. His pulse quickened as he read the short note. It's not over. Meet me at the old mill. The mill was abandoned. Had been for decades. Marcus hadn't even known it was still standing until he passed it that evening on his way to meet Aaron. It was hidden deep in the woods, a place where most people got lost on purpose. The kind of place where the earth swallowed any noise, leaving only the sound of distant whispers. Aaron was already there when he arrived. She looked different. More familiar, somehow. But something in her eyes, the same dark emptiness he'd seen in the boy's gaze months ago. Marcus, she said softly. I know what you saw. What we saw. She glanced around nervously, as if the shadows themselves were listening. What do you mean? Marcus asked, his voice strained. Aaron reached into her jacket and pulled out an old leather-bound journal. She opened it and handed it to him. It was filled with notes, pictures, and strange symbols. I found it after I got out, she said, but I didn't know what it all meant until now. The first page was an illustration. A tall figure, wrapped in dark robes, standing in front of a massive stone archway. At the center of the archway was a mirror, the same one Marcus had seen in the basement. I've been researching, Aaron continued, looking into the history of Hallow Road and those who've gone missing. There's something about it, something about the boy. It's a ritual that goes back centuries. And it's not just him. It's the gate. Marcus frowned. A gate? She nodded grimly. A gateway to something older. Something far worse than you can imagine. That's why the boy picks certain people. People like us. People who belong. Belong to what? To the other side, Aaron said, her voice trembling. That mirror, it doesn't reflect just what's in front of it. It reflects everything, past, present, future. A doorway to what waits beyond. And once it's opened, there's no going back. As they sat in the darkness of the mill, the wind howling through the cracks in the walls, Aaron told Marcus everything she'd uncovered. The boy's true nature was far more than just a supernatural entity. He was a vessel, a conduit between worlds. His form wasn't tied to any specific body or time. He existed across dimensions, appearing in different ages, in different forms, as a creature of pure transience. 4.